Welcome to Vainglory Analytics video 10. What does squishy mean? When talking about Vainglory, people use the word squishy all the time. Probably in your party chats, you've seen people say stuff like this. Notice how I'm not capitalizing anything or writing incomplete sentences and using silly little abbreviations like KK so that I seem like the cool young kids who play this game. Is it working? Or can you still tell that I'm old? Anyway, people say stuff like this, but what exactly does squishy mean? For the purposes of this video, I'm going to define squishy like this, which is what I think people mean when they say it. A hero is squishy if it takes fewer attacks or abilities to kill them. Since this is an analytics video, we need to quantify that. Recall from way back in video 1, the formula for weapon damage. It says if we take your weapon power, we can figure out how many hit points one of your basic attacks will make the enemy lose by multiplying by this armor factor in the middle. If we want to think about killing the enemy, then we need to think about how much damage we need to take away all of their hit points. Naturally, that will take more attacks and or more weapon power, all of which I'll lump under the heading of effort on your part to kill the enemy. We want a formula for how much effort it takes to kill the enemy because that's how we define squishiness, in terms of effort required to kill. So, let's solve that formula for effort. Of course, enemies who take a lot of effort to kill we don't call squishy, we call them tanky. So this formula is actually for tankiness, the opposite of squishiness. But that's good enough. It's the same concept, just in reverse order. Big tanky numbers are little squishy numbers and vice versa. So let's see what the various tankiness stats look like for all the heroes. I wrote some code that goes to the Vainglory Fire website and grabs all the basic stats for all the heroes. It turns out it doesn't matter whether we analyze weapon power and armor or crystal power and shield, because the hero's stats are symmetrical. The computations would be the same on the weapon power side or the crystal power side. That's convenient because rather than speaking of weapon power tankiness versus crystal power tankiness, we can just talk about tankiness. So, if I apply my formula for tankiness to each hero, what kind of results do I get? These. Wait, who the heck is that? Fortress is the most tanky hero in the whole game by far? Something is up. Let's check Fortress's data on the Vainglory Fire website. Whoa, somebody typed something wrong here. This says the Fortress gets plus 86 armor and shield every level? That's crazy! Checking the in-game stats, we see where the typo came from. He goes up to 86 armor and shield by level 12, not 86 per level. So, the website should actually say he gets plus 5.09 per level, so that he ends up at 86 at level 12. Seeing this, I decided to be a good citizen of the community and report this typo on the Vainglory Fire website. I noticed a report button right there and I clicked it, and the website says that the reporting page doesn't exist. Makes you wonder why they have a link to it, but no problem. I can still be a helpful community member. There's a contact us link at the bottom of the page. I clicked that. I filled out a form and told them about the typo on the Fortress page. When I submitted, wait, it says I didn't correctly use the CAPTCHA, but there was no CAPTCHA. Okay, I've made my best effort at serving the Vainglory Fire community. Vainglory Fire, I am using YouTube to submit 3 bug reports about your website. First, Fortress's data is wrong. Second, your reporting page is missing. And third, your contact us page is unusable. At least, all of this frustration created a nice comedy of errors that made this video potentially more entertaining. So, thanks, Vainglory Fire. Anyway, let's get back to the analysis. I just added one line of code to replace the Fortress error with the correct data. While I'm at it, let's add some other stuff. Jewel has significantly different armor from the front and sides as part of her heroic perk, so I added a new hero called Jewel Perk that has those modified stats. It's like the jewel you get if you're attacking from the front or the sides. Catherine also has significantly more armor and shield after she's built stacks using her heroic perk, so I added a new hero called Cath Perk who has 25 stacks for a bonus of 50 armor and 50 shield. Of course that varies throughout the game, but that's one set of modified stats Catherine could have. Other heroes have bonus defenses also, like Arden and Grumpjaw, but they don't translate neatly into armor and shield specifically, so I'm not including them in this analysis. So, now that the data is fixed, let's take a look at that bar chart again. We still have one big outlier, and it's Jewel with her perk. This shows that Jewel's perk is a big deal, and if you're playing her, it's really important to face your enemies. But everybody else seems to sit in a smoothly increasing spectrum with little difference from one hero to the next. But don't be fooled. If we compare the tankiest hero, other than Jewel with her perk, to the squishiest hero, we see that there's actually quite a difference. It takes 70% more effort on your part to kill Lance than to kill Lyra. Ignoring Jewel with her perk, let's zoom in on all the other heroes, stretching out the y-axis. Here's the same chart, but rescaled, so it's easier to see the differences. Now, one of the most famous ways to lie with statistics is to change the y-axis so that it doesn't start at 0. This makes it look like the big quantities are many times bigger than the little quantities, when we know they're really only 70% bigger. Since I'm not trying to trick you in this video, I will call your attention to this fact so that you're not deceived by this chart. When the y-axis doesn't start at 0, we can't think in terms of the ratios of sizes of these bars. Instead, just think about the difference from one bar to the next, so that we can try to cluster them together into groups of heroes that are roughly about the same level of tankiness. That's a little tricky to do because there aren't many huge gaps from one bar to the next, but I've tried to split them into a couple of chunks just so we can end this video with a picture of the squishiness spectrum. Let's start on the left. The squishiest hero is in a class by herself, Lyra. Next are Petal, Saw, and Catherine. They're a cluster of heroes that's similarly squishy, so I put them in the same column. And within any column in this chart, I'll put the squishiest on top and the tankiest on bottom, but the differences are small within a column. Next is a clump of heroes that are actually the least similar. This group increases steadily in defense as we go down the column. Kestrel, Ringo, Gwen, Scarf, Reza, Vox, Cruel, Blackfeather, Sky. Next, a group of melee heroes and captains. Jewel, Kashka, Grace, Catherine, Fortress, Taka. More captains and melee heroes, Adagio, Idris, Baptiste, Rhyme. Then Arden and Flicker. Then, surprisingly, Baron, Rona, and Ozo. Alpha in a class by herself. And the final group of captains and melee heroes, Glaive, Grumcha, Catherine, Finn, Lance. So, here is the squishy tanky spectrum for Vainglory heroes as of update 2.7. This makes me wonder, where do my favorite heroes lie in the spectrum? So I grayed out the heroes that I don't tend to want to play, leaving in color the heroes that I enjoy playing and maybe do better with. I guess I'm a little bit leaning to the right, but not very much. But if I ask myself on which heroes do I tend to buy sustain items like Eve and Serpent Mask, I find that all of those are on the left side of the screen. Also, whenever I'm playing good old Ringo, I'm always nervous about my squishiness. It's palpable for me throughout the game. And whenever I'm playing Fortress, I don't actually build him squishy. Of course, you put a ton of health on him, so he's not really squishy when you play him, which brings up the important point that naturally, buying health, armor, or shield changes every hero's squishiness, and today's analysis was about unequipped heroes. So, if I gray out all those options, then what's left over is really mostly right-hand side stuff, which resonates with my impression of myself as a player. I am definitely cautious and do not like to play anything that might get killed quickly. Where do your heroes sit on this spectrum? Or, more important, where do your enemies' heroes sit on the spectrum? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.